Remember when we said we'd stay together now until forever? Just us, just us.
What's up, you guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jessica Hickson, and I spent 5 years working my way up to the top of an MLM before realizing they're just not all that they're cracked up to be. My goal with this channel is to rescue some huns, to prevent some huns from becoming huns, and to also give those a voice who have left the hun bot industry like myself.
It's what you're doing, making me feel like I'm falling. And when you're moving, I can...
Today's small business shout out goes to Erin's Yarn and Geeky Art. Erin makes crocheted plush stuffed animals of people's pets. Some of which have passed and some of which are still living. Erin actually used to be a part of Beachbody, but had been rescued 2 years ago now. So let's all give her a round of applause for that. And definitely go check her out if you'd like to support a small business. I will leave all of her links in the description below. And back to the video. So today's video should be a pretty interesting one. I had received word a few months ago that the CEO, the co-founder of It Works, Pam Souter, had left the company and actually decided to start writing books. And this is something I've noticed quite frequently now within MLMs and the MLM I was within specifically, that all of these top leaders and these people who are just like die hard till death do us part with It Works, they're venturing out to do different things. Like some are creating podcasts, some are writing books, like they're all doing something different to make an extra stream of income. And my first question that would be like, if you're making so much money, why would you need to put more work into something else to make more money? And also it makes me wonder if maybe, and this is of course just my opinion, if maybe something's going on within where the company may go under soon, or they're having some sort of trouble that people feel like they need to have a backup plan in case something does happen. But regardless, I've never done a book review. I'm not a huge reader. I only really read for like personal development, right? So I've never done a book review. I don't even know if this is gonna be like a book review. I don't know what a book review consists of, but what I'm basically gonna do is I'm gonna go through the book that Pam Souter wrote and just kind of break it down for you guys and give you guys my thoughts on it. So the book is called Rich Girl, Poor Girl. And given that she was a good speaker and she was very inspirational and a lot of people looked up to her when she was in the company, I was very intrigued by the fact that she was writing a personal development book. I'm gonna read the back of the book to you guys just so you guys can get a feel for what this book is supposed to be about, and then we'll talk about what it's actually about. So the back of the book reads, "A rich girl stands in her power and knows who she is and what she offers, abandoning the thoughts of unworthiness and uncertainty. A rich girl commands attention for her business, attracting the right people who fall in love with her energy, passion, and experience. Her business allows her to live life on her terms so she can enjoy her family, friends, and freedom. The poor girl needs to learn how to embrace the rich girl within her without living in fear, guilt, or trapped by circumstances. The rich girl will serve as your mentor in teaching you the everyday strategies to take back your life so that you can embrace your inner strengths without sacrificing who you really are. Rich Girl, Poor Girl, with its simple concepts and business strategies along with real life stories, will inspire you to step into who you are designed to be, the rich girl." So given that description of the book, I really had no reason to believe it was going to be anything other than like a personal development type book, kind of a book to shut out your inner mean girl and accept the positive self-talk, positive mindset type stuff. That's what I assumed it was going to be about, and that's why I assumed that. I quickly found that that is not at all what this is about, and we'll go through her actual intentions with writing this book. But first, let's talk a little bit about the author, where she comes from, what she's known for, etc., etc. So Pam was born in 1957 in Roanoke, Virginia. She was a stay-at-home mom. Her husband, Dave, worked outside of the house, and she began feeling unworthy, like she wasn't financially contributing to the family, like she didn't want to keep struggling financially. She wanted to be able to find an income that wouldn't require her to just like leave her kids alone all day or wear a uniform every day or whatever. So she happened to stumble across a health and wellness company that happened to be an MLM. And she says at first she was so reserved and held back and she wanted nothing to do with it. But after being sold the dream, she eventually gave in. She was with that company for 6 years when she decided to leave because of the new owners and lack of innovation, whatever that means. This is when she was introduced to the rap in Mexico City by a man named Luis Mijares. I'm probably butchering that, but I'll put his name up here. And he is the formulator of the rap. So once this Luis guy introduced her to the rap, she just decided that this was what was gonna change her life. She decided she wanted to start her own MLM, and so she called up Mark Pentecost, who is the co-founder of It Works, and they started collaborating and figuring out how this was gonna work, and they created It Works. She posted her first podcast episode on April 30th of 2018 and published her book on January 5th of 2021. And like I said, I can't help but notice recently how many of these top leaders and people at the top of the company are starting to branch out and do different things. And I don't know if it's because there's anticipation of like maybe something happening with the company, or there's some stuff going on the inside that is a little sketchy, or they're just preparing for if something may happen to the company, or they're just greedy and they want all the money they can get, and they're realizing that that's not coming in the form of the MLM, or simply maybe they just decided that they wanted to use their following to capitalize on it as much as they can, and maybe their end goal was eventually to get out of the MLM, but they're using it as like a stepping stone. I really can't say it because I have no idea, but this is something that I have noticed a lot lately. But I bought this book on Amazon, and I noticed when I was going through the reviews, like virtually every single review was from an It Works distributor, and they all had a very similar picture of them like this. So it makes me wonder if maybe it was like a task on a Power Hour or something, you know, like go take a picture with your book and post, tag Pam Souter and put like how much you love the book or whatever, you know? So that was interesting to me, but not surprising considering that the Better Business Bureau reviews and the Glassdoor reviews, like all of those are from distributors too, so it didn't surprise me at all. But it's quite interesting once we get going with the book that all of the people who left reviews are distributors. So first we start with the foreword, and I actually had to look up what the foreword even was because I'm pretty sure like the last book I read was Captain Underpants in 4th grade, maybe? Just kidding. Shout out to Rachel Hollis because I read all of her books when I was a hun. Actually, I don't know if I should be admitting that anymore since she kind of like disowned the huns and now they all hate. I don't know. Regardless, I'm not a big reader. So I had to look up like what a foreword actually was. I assumed it was some type of like introduction, but after the foreword, there was also an introduction. So I wanted to look up what the difference was. Turns out the foreword is normally written by someone else, like someone more qualified to give them more credibility with the book, basically to hype up the author and tell you how awesome they are and why they have so much credibility to write this whatever book you're reading the foreword to. But Pam actually wrote her own foreword, and page 11 is where the foreword starts, and I will tell you, page 11 was where I started to lose all hope for this book. So I'm just gonna basically go through and break down the parts of the book that I feel like need touched on, and we'll start with the foreword. So the first quote on here reads, "It is my wish that you will explore the network marketing industry as I did in 1994 and look at the possibilities that it can give you." That first quote, I was just like, okay, so that's what this entire book is gonna be about. Cool. Which is ironic considering that like 99% of the people who would be reading this book, who care to read this book, would be distributors. So you don't really have to convince them if they're already like under the spell, right? But wait for the next quote. This quote reads, "I am now the rich girl who feels so blessed that she can seize life with the understanding that being rich in life is what God intended. May you have an open mind to explore this industry that never stops giving." And I think this quote pretty much sums up, in my opinion, what It Works is all about. And their biggest tactic that they use is the fact that they're a faith-based company, and essentially faith manipulation is their biggest tactic that they use. And this just wrapped it into a sweet little bundle for us. And if you're watching this and wondering if maybe God has a little bit more in store for you than just being rich, I'm here to assure you He does. So get over yourself, Pam Souter. She used to always tell people that when they would like confide in her about why they weren't taking their business seriously or what's holding them back in their business. She's the one that would go around and tell them to get over themselves, and everybody would jump up and down and cheer like she was just so inspirational for telling people to get over themselves. Love that. So we'll move on to page 13, which is the introduction. And there's just a couple things on here that I want to touch on. So here goes. I was blessed to be a stay-at-home mom. I felt unfulfilled at times, lonely, and missed adult interaction. Plus, I wanted to be able to contribute financially to our family that had growing needs. I felt and thought like a poor girl. First of all, I think a lot of moms can relate to feeling unfulfilled or lonely, or like you're missing that adult interaction, or like you're not contributing financially. A lot of moms go through this struggle when they're stay-at-home moms. They start to kind of like lose themselves. And I know firsthand, I had a lot of people join my team who just needed that connection with other adults, and especially other moms who were going through similar things. And I think there's a reason that she mentioned that. Actually, I know there's a reason that she mentioned that, because she wants to be able to relate to the reader however she can, right? But the last thing she said is what really threw me off. I felt and thought like a poor girl. After explaining how lonely and unfulfilled and how she missed adult interaction, how she felt depressed in a sense. Actually, the very next sentence she says that caused me to feel depressed. So she felt depressed, and she's trying to say here that that's a poor girl mentality. Coming from someone who has struggled with depression and also anxiety, and also feeling lonely from being a mom and losing yourself and everything else that she mentioned, coming from someone who has experienced that, that is such a toxic statement. I felt and thought like a poor girl. So if you have those types of thoughts and you're questioning your worth, or you're questioning your purpose, or you're losing yourself and you start to feel depressed, that's you thinking like a poor girl. So damn toxic. This is only the introduction, y'all. So now we'll move on to chapter 1, which is titled Uncovering Your Why. And directly under the title, it says, What you want wants you. Pam Souter. The inspirational words of Pam Souter. What you want wants you. Gosh, so insightful. Inspiration. Okay, so the first quote of this chapter that I want to talk about is, your why is the thing that makes you laugh and cry almost within the same breath once you allow it in. We've talked about our why before, but she's the person that I told you that goes around and tells people to like get over themselves if they're using their why as their excuse. And what I mean by that is, if you join the business to have more time with your kids, and then you use your kids as your excuse to why you can't work your business to eventually someday have more time with your kids, then you're using your why as your excuse. So basically, you want something that's your why, that is gonna like bring you to tears, but then also make you extremely happy. Next, we'll move on to page 19, where she says, do what you love and you will never work a day in your life. I feel like that quote is so toxic. Like, yeah, you should like what you do for a living, or you're in for a long life. But being in an MLM, one, nobody loves it. There's no way that people love sending hey girl messages on Instagram. I dreaded that. Like, I did it because I had to do it, and I knew that was the only way to make money, and that it was the only way to help my team make money. But nobody loves doing that. Also, if you're in an MLM, even if you do love it, let's say you, hypothetically speaking, you love it, you're still working every day. Like, just because you're not going into an office doesn't mean that you don't have to like sit down and work on something for all hours of the day. I will tell you, I worked harder at that business than I did anything in my entire life. From the time I woke up to the time I went to bed, it was the last thing I thought about before I went to bed. It was the first thing I thought about when I woke up in the morning. It was my life, and I worked it every single day. And even worse, you can't take a vacation when you do something like an MLM. Like if you try to take a vacation, your team is gonna crumble. You have to be readily available and posting every single day. We've learned this in a lot of our trainings that we've watched. You have to be present every single day or your business can crumble. So you can never truly be on vacation and living in the moment because you always have to be doing something for the MLM. Even if it's just like creating content and making sure that you're getting the right pictures and the right angles and the right filters and making sure that your phone's on loud. So if your team needs something, then they can get something from you. Like everything, you have to be readily available all the time. So you're never truly on vacation. Whereas a 9 to 5, or like, you know, they like to dog on 9 to 5. So that's why I'm using that as an example. But a 9 to 5, you clock out and you're good for the day. Like you don't even have to think about it for a single second after you leave the office. I mean, maybe, I don't know what job you have. Maybe you have to, but you get my drift. This next quote reads, "What would a day in your life look like if you weren't spending all your time on the daily grind?" First of all, can I tell you that I do not know one leader that didn't promote being on the grind all the time. Like most leaders would encourage, they would say, don't put the business before your family. But when it came down to it, like crunch time, end of month, you were always told to put the business before your family. And I actually personally know a girl who was like shunned from her team because she challenged someone who was above her when they told her that she needed to put the business before her family. So her entire team like shunned her because that was disrespectful of her. And the last quote for this page is, "What do you do when you're just being you and no one is telling you what you should do?" And literally people are telling you what to do nonstop in an MLM. Like if you're not there for an hour of the day, people are like, where are you at? What are you doing? Why aren't you working? And I was like that with my team too, so I can't even talk. But just to let you know, if you're thinking about joining an MLM and you're like, it would be nice to kind of like be my own boss and like tell myself what to do, but everybody else is telling you what to do too, I promise. So moving on to page 20, she says, "I was looking for a way to be able to stay home with my kids while working in the pockets of time throughout the day. I honestly didn't care what I did. I just wanted and very much needed to bring some extra cash in without putting on pantyhose, getting in the car, and going to a job. Can you relate?" The can you relate part is just creating that relatability factor with the reader so she can continue to try to sway them to think that she's just like they are. She just worked harder to change her situation. Because then at the bottom of the page, she says, "I know the same is true for many moms out there." So she knows who she's targeting right now, and she's doing that for a reason. And again, on page 21, "While being a stay-at-home mom is a very fulfilling experience, there's a side effect for some women like myself who feel that they've lost themselves." The like myself, again, is just adding to the relatability factor of this entire book. And I'm not saying that she didn't feel those feelings or that those feelings aren't valid, but when you're writing it in a book to sway vulnerable moms a certain way, it pretty clearly outlines your ulterior motive here. And this one, this quote, it really got me. "Who am I? What am I supposed to do now? Have I lost my mojo? Can I get it back? Has my brain turned to mush? Am I still valuable? Can I even think? Who would want someone my age? These are the thoughts of a poor girl." What? What? I'm sorry, but you are lying if you tell me that you've never felt those feelings or those emotions ever in your life, that you've never questioned your purpose, that you've never felt lost. You're lying if you're saying that you've never felt that. What does that have to do with being a poor girl? Like, how are those the thoughts of a poor girl? That makes zero sense. Like, are you high? I feel like I should have been reading this book. It would have made it more bearable. And the thing that really gets me is like, she has to know that mostly It Works distributors are gonna be the ones buying and reading this book, right? So why are you trying to convince people that you've already convinced that like an MLM is the answer to all their problems? And then at the bottom of the page, it says, "Don't be afraid of hurting someone because you want more," AKA push out the haters. Haters being anyone who doesn't agree with your MLM and your scammy ways. And then it brings us to our questions of the day and a little journaling section that we can use. So let's hear what the questions are. Have you lost yourself? Do you miss true connections with people? What skills and dreams did you have as a kid that you've lost touch with? Are you looking for a job but secretly don't want one? Or would you rather have time and freedom that allows you to earn money on your own terms? This is starting to sound like an infomercial that needs to be on at like 2 o'clock in the morning, where they're like, have dramatic music in the background. It's like, have you lost yourself? Do you miss true connections with people? What skills and dreams have you had as a kid that you've lost touch with? Are you looking for a job but secretly don't want one? Or would you rather have time and freedom that allows you to earn money on your own terms? How did I do? Let me know. But these are literally the questions that we were trained to ask people when we were trying to recruit them. So the fact that you wrote a book trying to recruit people who have already been recruited into your scam is a little sketchy, in my opinion. And then we've got chapter 2. It's titled, Oh No, Not One of Those Things, with more wise words from Pam Souter, stating, it's not normal, but it works. Man, I just don't know how she comes up with these insightful quotes. It's quite amazing. So we start off this chapter by saying, as you can imagine, and maybe you have felt this way too, I thought meetings like this were a waste of time and a scam.
That's called intuition, baby. Listen to it.
And then later on down the page, we have, it put me in that negative mindset of being completely closed off to the prospect of what I could learn, which is typical of how a poor girl thinks, mostly of herself. Let me first just say, like, not being open to new opportunities and then not being open to lying, deceiving, and manipulating people are two totally different things. So let's not get that twisted, first of all. But here she seems to be implying that if you're not open to an MLM, it's because you think negatively of yourself and it's just your negative mindset, and in hopes of like guilting the reader to feeling like they're the problem, and that the only reason they're not successful in their life is because they have this poor girl mentality, so they're holding themselves back. And that if they don't join the MLM, or they're not open to the idea of joining the MLM, that it's because they feel poorly of themselves. Which totally makes sense. I don't know why you guys aren't understanding the connection here. And in this chapter, she's like referencing the first meeting that she went to where they like recruited her. And so at the bottom here, he said, now if you get a few who get a few to try the service, then you can earn residual income, and that can be while you're sleeping. What does this sound like? If you can get a few who get a few to try the service. Anybody else see where this is going? If you can get a few to get a few to get a few to get a few, boom, baby. And this quote cracks me up because I actually crossed it out and fixed it for her, but it says, if it seems too good to be true, do your research. I crossed it out and said, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Which is true, but I also agree with her, do your research. But really all the research that you would really need to do is just to pull up the income disclosure statement, and it would tell you literally everything you need to know. If you actually look at it and break it down, it'd be pretty clear that it's too good to be true. This one was quite funny. It says, today there are many names for the industry: direct sales, network marketing, social selling, or influencer marketing. And why is that, Pam?
It surely can't be because you guys have abused the term so much that it has a negative stigma attached to it and you guys have to find a new term to use. No way, no how.
And then we've got, I sat in the back of that room and heard his story, and something within me came alive. Hearing his story made me feel that if he could do it, so could I. He was making well over $1 million a year. Can I just tell you, this is literally my upline's exact story. That she went to the conference, her and her husband sat in the back because she wanted nothing to do with it. And by the time she was leaving, she was saying her husband's name, we're gonna be millionaires. That's literally her exact story, and the story of so many people at the top. But also that strategy or tactic of like, if he can do it, I can too, is used all the time. And that's why they always have so many speakers that come from all walks of life and that are all shapes and sizes, because they want you to see them up there talking on stage and think, wow, if they can do this, I can do this. Like, I'm just like they are. Or they want you to be able to relate to somebody on the stage in some way to inspire you to think that you can do it too. So moving on a little bit further, she says, you think you are too good for this. That's always like a limiting belief, is that some people who join, they just think they're too good for it, and that's why they end up quitting. But actually, like, the people in there are way too good for a 9-to-5. But if I'm being real with you, we're all too good for it. But she wants the reader to think that if they think they're too good for it, she wants them to think, you are not too good for it. Like, look what it's done for me, and I thought I was too good for it. She's trying to appeal to all audiences here. Now we've got, what's the difference between earning $15 and $4,000 a month? It's belief and the willingness to go after your dreams. No, actually, it's the ability and the willingness to be toyed around like a little puppet doing exactly what you're told. And then it's beyond that point, a pissing match between who can manipulate the most people into doing the same thing, essentially. And now we've got our daily journaling questions. What are your current thoughts about network marketing? Have you ever thought about working from home? What would your life be like if you could? Are you happy with your current job situation or business? If not, what is holding you back from going after what you want? What steps would you need to take to leave your comfort zone and change your future? Are you willing to open your mind and your heart to think about all the possibilities that this industry could bring you? This book is literally pointless. Like, I'm sure she spent a lot of time and work on this book, but you're literally preaching to the choir. Like, everybody that's reading this book is in the company. So who are you trying to convince? I don't get it. So I'm obviously gonna have to do this like book review in different sections or different parts, because there's a lot that I wanna unpack in this book, but I don't really know if people like watching book reviews. You guys will definitely have to let me know down below if you guys like watching this, because I do like picking it apart, but I don't wanna bore you guys with like hour-long videos about this book if you guys could care less, couldn't care less, could not care less. So I'm gonna stop at chapter 2 today, but chapter 3 we have coming up for part 2, which is days lead to weeks to months to years. What's that one gonna be about? I already have lots of notes taken on it. And then chapter 4 is the poor girl, AKA inner bully. So if you guys enjoy me picking apart this book little by little, then definitely let me know down below, because I don't want to waste your guys' time or my time going through it if you guys really couldn't give two shits less. So definitely let me know down below. Give this video a big thumbs up if you like this type of content. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the post notification bell if you want to be notified every time I post. And if you want to follow me on all social media platforms, you can find me at the Jessica Hickson. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!
Moving slower.